I wanted to go on the trip because civil rights inequities live in Mississippi. Every day I see it in the classrooms. I've taught civil rights and how to deal with inequities to my students. I've always been devoted to equity because you can see the inequity every day.
We do work collaboratively at AIR with our clients, and so we wanted to learn on this journey also with our clients. I was very adamant that we participate in the civil rights learning journey so that we could have ourselves psychologically, emotionally grounded in the history of inequity for people of color. During the journey, the participants had an opportunity to experience firsthand accounts from people who had been a part of the civil rights movement.
We'll be demonstrating here until freedom comes to Negroes here in Jackson, Mississippi.
On June 12, 1963, a sniper's bullet killed Medgar Evers.
People had an opportunity to go into actual historic places that are landmarks for the civil rights movement. We went to Medgar Evers' home, walked on top of the concrete where he shed blood.
Jackson, Mississippi, in 1963, there lived a man who was brave. He fought for freedom all of his life, till they laid Medgar Evers in his grave.
Brown Chapel AME Church, where it started in Selma, where two ladies, a 10th grader and an 11th grader at the time, took part in the marches for their parents' right to vote. To be able to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge with Roscoe Jones Sr. is an incredible experience.
On December 5th, 1955, many of Montgomery's buses were empty, the result of a Negro boycott that began when Rosa Parks made a momentous decision.
Refusing to ride the buses, they maintained the boycott until the U.S. Supreme Court ordered integration of public transportation 1 year later.
The Montgomery bus boycott was a female-run activity. Dr. King was at the forefront in terms of media coverage, but the work behind the scenes was done by women.
I said, Lord, I'm down here trying to do what's right. I think I'm right. I think the cause that we represent is right. But Lord, I must confess that I'm weak now, I'm faltering, I'm losing my courage. It seemed at that moment that I could hear an inner voice saying to me, Martin Luther, stand up for righteousness. Stand up for justice.
The thing that resonated with me the most is something that I've always felt and seen, but didn't know how to make the connection. The connection between slavery, disruption of people's families, legal segregation, to mass incarceration.
We went to the lynching memorial where we were each able to find our own states and read names of people who had been lynched from our states in our region.
The public violence to intimidate an entire race of people was really overwhelming. To see the violence with which any type of change was confronted is heavy. It's heavy.
I feel like this whole experience has been one long memorial service. That's how I kind of experience it, just the grief, the waves of grief around people who have suffered so much about so little, right? And anger, which proceeds from that. And also gratitude, because my life is much better. I have not had to go through what they went through. And I think of it often in public places, like, you know, we couldn't have been on a bus traveling 50, 60 years ago, driving at night in the dark in these places. So I feel very grateful for all the sacrifices that have been made and really, you know, feel the weight of responsibility.
I think about all of the horrible things that man did to man, the lynching and the terror. And then I also think about, on the other side of that, the bravery and the hope in spite of hope. For me, just I feel as though today all of humanity is on display.
I believe that the group of us that went on the journey can be pioneers in the movement toward equity for children. When we had that inside, up close and personal experience, then there's a piercing of the heart to compel us to better serve children.
One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place.
Years since Brown versus Board of Education, as a lot of those protections have gone away, communities have found other ways to segregate their schools, and we're now more segregated than we've been in decades. The largest trend is that there is a lot of anti-black racism that we're seeing in schools. It ranges from, you know, adults addressing children with the N-word to graffiti. We're seeing, you know, threatening Snapchats sent to students of color with like nooses drawn around their neck. That's something we've seen dozens of times. We're seeing a lot of just threatening social media behavior that obviously translates into the school environment. We're also seeing a lot of anti-immigrant rhetoric, especially in the last year, as that has been more prevalent on the national stage. What's new is that the current discourse and political climate nationally threatens to marginalize and traumatize many of our students for many reasons. And we know that educators are on the front lines of not only preparing these students to do a better job than we have in creating an equitable society, but they're also on the front lines of just keeping those students emotionally safe.
We have people who want to do the right thing, great teachers in Mississippi who care about their kids a great deal, but don't know how to meet them. And I think that that's really where I find my calling. I've always known that expectations of students and the teacher in the classroom is who can really make a difference. We are lucky to have people still tell us about those things. I'm so glad I had the privilege to be able to do it.